Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. Today we have a 2013 Toyota Corolla do a Avital remote start-in. Should be a pretty quick system. Beginner's level should be about 2 to 3 hours. Advanced, I'd say in a normal shop, take about 45 minutes. A couple things that we're going to have to run into today. We have a immobilizer in this car. You see on your key, you have a G on your key. You have an 80-bit encryption system. And that system has to be bypassed to make sure that the car can start without the key actually in the cylinder. So we'll have a PKALL, which we'll explain in a couple minutes. There's an extra module you need to buy on top of that to make sure that the car can start, like I said, without having the key anywhere near the ignition cylinder. The other thing to bypass is the alarm in the car. So the alarm is something that's going to be tied into the ignition system. If you try to start the car, the alarm's going to go off. So to make sure that that gets bypassed as well, only during remote start sequence. So let's jump in, we'll look at the remote start and see what we have wired up so far. Alright, we have the Avital here, the 4111, and let's go do our single button remote start system. Walk through the wires quick. This is beginner level stuff, so if you already know what's going on with the remote start here, feel free to fast forward. But start with the ignition wires. This has already been wired up, so I apologize I haven't actually been able to show you exactly how this wires up, but all the wires we've clipped except these. We have the ignition wires here, which red's going to be your power wire. You're going to have two, which you can, for this car, easily put into one. We're not going to power any high amperage stuff today. We're only going to be remote starting this car, which most of the wiring for the ignition is going to be very small wiring too. So definitely go down to one wire here for the power wire. Next you have your starter wire here. Just going to go to a starter. It's all going to be under the steering column. Your two ignition wires, this car has a second ignition in it, so just make sure we power that guy up. If you don't, you may get check engine lights. And accessory wire, so it's going to be the accessory portion of the car, which when we get in the car, I'll be able to show you exactly how that tests out and what to hook that up to. Then we have our auxiliary wires here. Start with the brake wire, the brown wire. You go the Tach wire. This is the one that goes to check to see if the engine's running. Make sure that once it starts the car, to not continue cranking it. It knows to stop at that point and the car's running. Ground wire. Ground wire is black. That's going to go straight to metal of the car. Then I have the two ground when running wires. Let's see where the other guy is here. So these guys are a little interesting. It's going to be for our immobilizer unit, which I'll explain here in a second. These give a ground output from the remote start when it's engaged. So this is how we can tell something that, hey, it's remote started, you got to kick in. Much being the immobilizer system. So you need to make sure that when we run the PKALL, which I'll show in a second, when that kicks in, or rather when the remote start kicks in, make sure that the immobilizer bypass system is doing the bypass. So that's one piece of this. That's one ground when running wire. The other is going to be for the key sense wire in the car. The key sense wire is going to be used to actually silence the alarm. So with these cars, as soon as you put the key in, if the alarm's going off, or just as soon as you put the key in, it disables the alarm system. So we need to be able to emulate that in this car with the remote start system. So a ground when running wire out of the remote start is going to be able to give that for us. Beyond that, we have our neutral safety switch wire. Basically, this is an automatic, so there's actually no neutral safety switch in this, but it's for the remote start. What this does is we can hook it up to our switch, which I think I have in the bag, so that if we want to disable the remote start completely, you bring a car into the shop, you get an oil change, getting work done to the car, you don't want the remote start system to engage. So this is actually a safety system. It's the black-white wire safety system of the car, the remote start system that allows you to disable it completely. And last, we have our white wire here, which is our parking lights wire. It's going to go to the negative parking lights wire in this car, so that when the remote start turns on, parking lights come on, and it's running. So that's the basic wires we have here coming out of our main remote start. Jump over to the PKALL by Express Kit. This is going to do, like I said, our immobilizer bypass. Don't know exactly what all these wires do. We'll check that out in a second when we're wiring it up. But we do have three main wires we're going to have to wire up. It's going to be our ground, black wire ground, red power, and then here is our blue, straight blue wire, which is going to go to that ground when running coming out of the remote start. So that's how our remote start is going to interface directly with this to tell it bypass that immobilizer system. The rest of these wires here, we have another 4 wires. A couple of them get tied into each other, and they run directly to the immobilizer, the ECM of the car, which has the immobilizer system inside of it. So this is actually the cheaper option. I want to throw this out there. The PKALL's, I think it's about 35 bucks. This is just doing the bypass the immobilizer system. There are the FL-CAN and DB-ALL products that you can buy as well that tie directly into the CAN bus system of the cars, which is the full computer system of the car, and it can really control a lot. So I think you can pick up the brake from there. I think it does Tach through it, does like I said, the entire immobilizer bypass. It's a little bit easier to install. The wires that you catch for that are actually at the OBD sensor, or the OBD plug rather, in the car. But that one runs you about 100 bucks, so definitely a lot more expensive than this route if you're just doing the immobilizer bypass part, which, like I said, we're just doing the 1-button system, just remote start, so should be all we need. So let's go install. Alright, well, we're in the car now, ready to disassemble, so it looks like we're probably going to take out this bottom piece here. First, it just pops all out here, and then drop this shroud. Most of our ignition wires and our parking lot wires are going to be under here, so we're going to grab everything here, and then I believe the brake and Tach are under the dash. So probably want to catch everything here. Like I said, pop this out, and then we'll be good to go. So let's do it. Aha! 2 screws! One thing to mention, this is your tire pressure light here for the tire pressure sensors. If this comes unplugged, you'll have to reset the system. So what you want to do is keep this plugged in. I push the 2 tabs here to knock out the button, and then just simply plug in the harness back here again. And then when you turn the car on the next time, you won't have to reset it. Alright, next is the clamshell to take off. The easiest way to go about it is start squeezing around the sides here. You'll start seeing that this is going to start coming apart here on the side. Same thing on this one here. And then thinking about the Toyotas, you can see here, I don't know if we can get a shot. Right there is where you have to push in. Right behind this is a clip that's clipping this way. So in order to get this piece to come off, the piece behind it needs to be pushed back. So we'll do that right now. Hopefully don't gaff up the dash here trying to do that. They kind of make this a little tough, but we'll see what we can do.
Boom, clamshell.
So let me, oh geez, here we go. Alright, so to show you a little bit easier here, show that awesome Toyota beeping noise. There's the clip right here. So just to show you, before you take this thing off, if you can see that there, this is the point I was pushing on to push this clip back. So, like I said, if you kind of squeeze around the sides here, have the back pop off first, and then push in where that hole was that was there before. That's controlling this clip. And same thing on the other side, same identical symmetrical system. So, all right, let's jump in to the wiring now and see what we've exposed. So we found in these cars, like I was mentioning earlier, the wires for the ignition are really small, as you can see here. So the 12 volts is going to be too small of a source for us to pick up at the ignition. Luckily, Toyota put a nice 12 volt source behind this panel here. We can just pop off. This nice big wire here, the big white one, is our main 12 volt ignition, constant source coming from the battery. So we'll want to tap right into this guy, make sure we have enough power for the whole unit. We don't want to, like I said, go off directly off the 12 volt of the ignition source, because it's really not going to be enough to power the ignition and our remote start at the same time. It wasn't made to do that, so we'll go off this guy. All right, here we have the wire strip back. That's our 12 volt source. So testing that should give us 12 volts on our multimeter, which I just recently tested. So we are good to go. So we'll want to tap right through this wire here. Make sure you don't, if you're going to poke through this one, depending on how you're going to wire this up, just make sure that, obviously don't poke anything in the background there, because it can throw 12 volt to live stuff and stuff may ground out. So just be careful with this guy, but that is your 12 volt source, much better than the ignition source that we were looking at before. All right, well, we dove into the ignition wires here, and I think we've caught all that we need to find. First, we'll start with the black wire down here, which is our starter wire. That's in our first bottom left pin here. So this one's going to test. You put the key in, or rather, hook this up so you have ground. You hook up your power multimeter side over here. Put the key in, turn it on. You should have no voltage, and then during crank, you should see this wire now give you 12 volts. So, like I said, put your multimeter in ground for the black wire. The red wire, if your multimeter will go on here. Test it, and you should see during crank, when you're turning the key towards the starting position, you'll get 12 volts. Next, we have the ignition wires here. We have the gray and green wires. That's going to be ignition 1, ignition 2. That's going to be accessory 0, which is your first click. Second click is going to be 12 volt, and then also during crank is also going to give you 12 volt for the ignition wires. So ignition should only not give you 12 volt in the off position, and accessory. Ignition and start should give you 12 volts. Last wire we have to catch here is the light gray one here, top wire. That's going to be our accessory wire. That wire is going to be 12 volt in the accessory position, 12 volts in the ignition position, and then during crank, we're going to see it drop to 0, which is going to show you it's the accessory wire. That's the wire that, while the car's starting, we want to turn off all the accessories in the car. That's the idea behind that wire. So like I said, we just tested all those. We caught all these here. The other wire I was talking about earlier, we wanted to catch at the under shroud steering console is going to be the brown wire, which is going to be our negative parking lights wire. So I'll show you that really quick. This one's going to actually, like I said, be negative. So when we turn on parking lights, we want to see a 12 volt signal come through the multimeter, because how we're hooking this up is we have the positive off the multimeter going to 12 volt, and then our ground is going to go to the wire. So as soon as that wire gives us a ground signal, it's going to complete the circuit in the multimeter and hopefully show 12 volts. So right now I have it hooked up. Just plugged in the ground from the multimeter into the parking lights wire, and we should see 0 voltage because nothing's connected at this point. Turn on the parking lights, we see 12 volts now. Like I said, this wire is now giving out a ground output, hooked up with the 12 volt on the other side here, is completing the circuit, showing us 12 volts. I know that the brown wire is our wire in this car. Definitely want to point out right now that at this point, there are many different ignition wires depending on the model of this car. I believe this is either the base model or the mid-range model. The XRS model of this car has an extra starter wire in it that you'll have to look for. We didn't have that in this car, so we didn't have to look for that one, but definitely pay attention to your wire colors, because every wire in this car, when we're looking it up on Bulldog Security, give that out there, was showing 2 different wires for every wire color. So just keep that in mind. Definitely test all your wires. Test with a multimeter. Do not use a test light. You can definitely hurt things. That completes the circuit, whereas the multimeter is showing you a more abstract version of the voltage and doesn't actually connect the two together. So multimeter is a safe option, test light's not. So now we'll go to look for the brake wire and the attack wire in this car and move on. It'll be under the dash, so let's take a look under there. And we'll see that my probe is through that blue wire there. That's a brake wire, 12 volt, when you push the brake in. So we can test that right now. My probe is in the brake wire itself. We'll go to ground with the ground of the multimeter. And push the brake in, and we see 12 volts. Brake back out, we're back to 0. So now we know that we have the correct brake wire, and we can hook up from there. All right, well, we wired up the ignition harness here, and just go over the wire colors again real quick. We have the black starter wire in the bottom left corner. That's going to be hooked up to the purple wire off the remote start. We have the gray and green wires here on both sides of the harness. So third one over from the starter, and then one up from the starter wire. Those are both going to be the ignition wires, the pink and pink-white coming off the remote start. And lastly, we have, like we said before, the light gray wire, which is going to be the orange accessory wire coming off the remote start. So one thing to keep in mind with these ignition wires and everything going in the steering column here is you want to keep it all nice and neat and concise, because you have a lot of moving parts here. This whole console here moves in and out, so you want to make sure that you have enough length on your wires and everything here that you know, any kind of motion will be able to take care of that. The other wire we have here is the key sense wire, which is going to be disabling the alarm when we remote start the car. So this is that ground when running wire we ran from the brain, the blue-white or blue off the brain, to the blue wire here in this harness is going to do that for us. All right, on this side we have the parking lights wire, which is white coming off the remote start, going to the brown wire at the parking light harness. Some of the wire colors in Toyota are a little abstract, so this doesn't look brown, but that's what they think brown is. So so we hooked this up there. That's that negative parking lights wire that we tested earlier. And if we come over here, we'll look at the power wire we just wired up. So over here we have the white, which we tapped into, and have our nice red wire coming off the remote start right into that high amperage wire. And then if we look over here, I have the ground hooked up as well. So I found this bolt. It read good ground to it, so I figured let's just go straight to that. 10 millimeter bolt, and just put a spade terminal on there to connect the ground. The PKALL is now mounted here in the back here. I've unplugged the power from the unit and wired it in to the power, ground, and ground when running wires over here. I have it unplugged so the unit doesn't get any power while we're hooking up the immobilizer wires, which we've actually run some of these wires here under the hood. I need 3 wires to go into the hood. One for the IMI cut wire, and one to tap right into the IMO wire. So we'll go under the hood here in a second, but each side of this wire here goes into each side of the IMI wire we're going to cut under the hood. And then, like I said, this one we tap straight into the IMO wire, which is all for the immobilizer of the car, like we explained earlier. But yeah, so we went through a grommet. I don't know if you'll be able to see that too easily under here. Probably not, but there's a main grommet over here that, see if I can zoom in here. Nope. Main grommet over here that we went through the side of it, and let's go into the hood now. We can check out where we have to tap in.
Take a moment to point out the bird that's up there on the chimney that's being super duper loud, ruining our video. Sounds like yeah, dude, it sounds like a car alarm's going off. Why don't we just install that under the hood? So we're gonna take that bird and put it under this. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, we're under the hood now. We have our immobilizer wires a little bit separated here. It's going to be the pink and green-black wires. Our pink is our IMI. Our green-black is our IMO. Top corner here is the first 2 wires. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to cut this pink wire and then wire these 2 wires into here, onto each side of that, like I said before. And then our lonely IMO wire coming from the PKALL is going to go directly into our green black. Yes. And just to give you a heads up, we just wired in these wires into the PKALL under the hood, under the dash. So we know that, at least I know now, that the IMI is this and IMO is this, and our lighter color wire here is our yellow-black that's connected to, I forget what the other wire was, but that get connected together when you read the manual. So that's what this is, just in case anyone's confused by that, but it's wired in. All right, we have the PKALL wired in now. Like I said before, we cut our pink wire here, and we have each side of the IMI wire now tapped in. This is now going both to the PKALL. And we have our lonely IMO wire tapped straight into the green-black on the car side. So that's going to give us our immobilizer bypass, and now we can go program the PKALL now that it's all wired up. And now we're going to program the PKALL. Like I said before, we had unplugged the power from it. I'm going to plug that back in, but first we're going to press the button here on the side while I'm plugging it in, and the light should come on solid. Light is on. I don't know if we can see that there. There we go. Light is there. Let the program button go. And then directions say to start the vehicle, so we're going to try that right now and hope for the best. And there's our flashes, and the light went out. So that is a good sign. That's what was supposed to happen. The light's supposed to stay on. It learns the chip information off the key. Like I said, this is the immobilizer system that we're bypassing here, so it's learning that chip. And don't see any lights on the dash showing anything had a problem here, so bypassing that system worked. All right, we hooked up the Tach wire here. It's going to be the gray wire in the car in pin number 9 here. So it's the bottom pin in the bottom left corner there, looking at it from the front. So it's going to be the gray wire, and that's going to be the purple-white coming off the remote start. Goes directly into that. And we also wired up our neutral safety switch here. Flip that on to let the remote start do its job, or turn it off to make sure that it's completely disengaged. It's 2 black-white wires coming off of here on the back. One goes to the black-white wire coming off the brain. The other one goes to ground. So when you flip the switch on, it gives ground to the brain, letting it know that the remote start is enabled. Alright, so we just learned Tach in the car after we hooked it up onto the dash at the OBD plug. Basically that's starting the car, pressing the programming button on the remote start, and then there's a light on the Avital on the other side that unfortunately we can't get to at this point, but there's a light that'll shine that shows that it's learned Tach. So start the car, push the button, the light should come on within about 2 to 3 seconds, and you know Tach's been learned. So hopefully wrapping up this at this point, all we really have to do is run the antenna wire at this point. Usually the antenna wire runs up the A-pillar here, so we'll try to run it in the weather stripping here. Run it up the A-pillar, go across, and then mount the antenna in the middle of the car. Usually the best place to put your antenna so it catches a wide range of radio waves. So we're going to do that now. I'll show you how that runs. Nothing really too particular about it. The one thing about the antenna though is you don't want to put it in a tight coil. So normally when I'm running the antenna, I'll run it up the A-pillar, and then all of the slack I'll try to either stuff up here in the hood of the car, or somewhere under the dash. But just make sure that, like I said, you don't want to wrap that antenna really tight, just because it is a signal and you don't want to get a frequency loop there. So let's run it. ran the antenna and just programmed the brain. So programming the brain is kind of an optional step. All the defaults work fine for this car. We just wanted to make sure that we could run for a 24-minute run time, so the default 12, and the parking lights to stay constant. For some reason, Avital makes it so that the lights flash when it's remote started, but I think it makes sense to keep them on constant. So let's try the remote start, see if it works. All right, everything looks good. So we see our constant parking lights on. Car started up okay. Don't have any warning lights or any check engine lights on the dash. So we're looking good at this point. Had a pretty good start to it, and I'm liking the install. All right, so just the last finishing touches. Putting the sticker under the hood here to show we have remote start in the vehicle and warn any mechanics. Just some final thoughts on the vehicle here. There is a parking light jumper that is on the brain itself that, seeing we hooked up the negative parking lights wire, forgot to mention earlier, you'll want to move that jumper from the positive to the negative position. So you're throwing negative ground to the parking lights when they want to turn on, not 12 volts. And beyond that, I just want to mention again, definitely test all your wires. I'm not responsible for anything you do to your car, so good luck. But with this car specifically, with the wire colors, when we looked them up, they definitely had a bunch of different wire colors for the wires themselves, depending on the base model, mid-range, or XRS model of this car. So pay attention to that, test your wires with a multimeter, and you'll be good. Thanks for joining us.